Once upon a time, two men decided if they were making the cut. And then they made the cut. And now JT and Aaron are talking everything from wrestling to pop culture and beyond. Because it's no holds barred.
Will you back down, turn and run? Or stand up with the best? When you're back to the wall, what will your answer be? Will you run for the door? Will you run out on me like it's hard? It's
No holds barred.
Then he'll break his word.
Already worker on the clock. It's no holds barred. It's me and you.
Yeah. Talking
Here
some
again.
Well, talking some no holds barred.
Into our second 100 episodes.
Now,
101.
Didn't we talk at one point about watching No Holds Barred for the 100th episode?
Yeah, but then all this other stuff happened. The video we lost track. Maybe for 250
All right.
in like 5 years.
What would that be the anniversary of? It'll be like almost the 30th or 40th anniversary of No Holds Barred?
Probably further than that.
Now, I'm assuming Hollywood's going to make a big deal about this, right? When the time comes?
I'm waiting for him to remake it.
Who do they remake it with?
Either The Rock or Batista's my guess. Or Cena. Probably Cena.
Okay, so Cena is Rip, right?
Mhm.
Who's Brel?
Well, it's just going to be some actor. I mean, if they're making it today,
Daniel
I don't know.
Day-Lewis.
there's a good smarmy. No.
He'll go all in. Why don't they just get Vince? I mean,
It's going to be like a B-list guy, like a C-list, whatever bro was at that point. It's not going to be like a major actor.
Louis C.K.?
Different kind of no holds barred.
And then we also got to cast Randy.
Oh, I hate Randy.
I know. I can't believe they named him Randy, and I can't believe Randy Savage didn't throw furniture in the back.
I have a theory that Randy from A Christmas Story grew up to be Randy Rip's brother.
Holy shit! So was Rip in the house during Christmas Story?
Fuck,
Then?
yeah, he's such a wiener. No, I think they put him up for adoption,
Oh,
and then he got adopted by Rip's family.
I see. You're naming your characters after me. Huh? Yeah.
Elizabeth next. All right.
Just some OnlyFans chick will be Joan Severance, right?
Yeah, whoever. Candace Michelle.
She alive?
Yeah.
She didn't
yeah.
burst?
She got a lot of videos on the internet. There's
Oh,
a lot
shit.
going on out there.
You gotta
Check
tell them.
her
I
out.
need another 10 minutes to go check this out.
All right. Every now and then, probably every other week now, we're doing our greatest world title change ever project, WWE history. We've watched 35 matches so far. We're on our 36th tonight.
Is this a threatening knife?
No, is that like Frank Reynolds' toe knife?
I haven't used it on my toes, but
Oh, okay.
I suppose you could. It's got a good point to get in there, you know?
It looks similar.
Did you ever cut your toes with a knife? Is that something you did?
No.
I used to cut the skin off the bottom of my feet.
Fuck is wrong with you?
I don't know. I don't know why I do the things I do. No holds barred. No holds barred.
All right, tonight we are, and by the way, with the whole video thing we got going on, we are now live watching these matches together. So we're not pre-watching anymore. We're going to live watch and talk about the match as we watch it, and then we'll give our grades and see where we're ranked. So tonight we're doing, I think it's a pretty famous match. Most people have heard of it.
You could say that.
It took place in Montreal, Quebec, Canada on November 9th, 1997.
I was there.
Bret Hart defending against Shawn Michaels. Yes, Aaron DeGeorge was in there in the crowd.
Or D-Justice, whatever, the gimmicks.
Gives a shit. Watching the match. So tonight we're going to talk about that one. Our last episode, Bret Hart versus The Undertaker, ended up finishing
First.
very well. It is now, yes, our top entrant in this project by far, destroying the previous number one.
Yeah.
So let's see how tonight goes. We are queued up depending on how you're watching. If you're on Peacock, we're at 2:14:32. If you're on outside of the United States on WWE Network, you're at
2:14:18.
Okay, so basically the image is Rick Rude is looking askew off camera. Triple H is walking toward the door of the DX locker room.
His ass is like filling out those pants.
Nah, not that well. I don't think he's got a nice ass looking at this.
I think he's got a pretty good ass.
He had to. All right, we ready?
Imagine if Sid was there, he'd fist him.
Maybe we'll talk about that next episode.
Yeah,
Okay, we
maybe.
ready?
Yeah,
Here we go. I'm gonna count us in 3, 2, 1, go.
Boom, 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 boom. I love that music.
Yeah.
Like the serious time music.
So do you think this is peak shitbag Shawn Michaels, or do you think
Yes.
it's still to come? No, I'm
No.
not this era. I mean this night. Or do you feel
Nah,
like it's still to come?
It's this and One Night Only.
Well, that's before this.
That's what I mean. I think it's both of them. Like I think that whole
Right.
like little sequence is the.
I think there's a forgotten night on Raw. I think it's like a couple weeks after this, where they're playing poker.
Oh yeah, that one's good too.
Get out of the headbangers, and he's in his underwear and he's diddling his balls on the top rope, like hard for everything. And they like smash their headbangers with the bottle of Jack and everything. Like
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
like the rock bottom douchebag Shawn Michaels.
I think as we watch this, you're going to see him do some stuff in the ring with the fans, which is definitely on par with that.
I mean, he just owned this whole time period. It's like ridiculous.
It's like no one talks about this as like one of the greatest heel runs of all time.
Right.
But it's so good. I love too that it went from like the intense music, don't,
Right.
to like Shawn being like, I don't know where to go. Where do I go?
Yeah. But I love too the fact that everyone thinks like, oh, DX was cool and just trying to get over, but not this DX.
No.
This DX were just pricks and they were hated. Like they were cool, but they weren't faces pretending to be heels. Like and like it's like early NWOs like that too. I think as NWO progresses, they become cool and like they kind of want to be the faces by like 97. But like this era of DX is like pure right there, the beer all over him, he's soaking it in.
Well, because he just grabbed the flag and like
he's
every time I watch it's so good. Every time I watch this show, I'm always surprised that the announcer is French.
Yes.
Like it's so strange.
It's so unlike WWF to do.
I know. But everything sounds weaker in French.
Right.
Le Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. Psycho Sid was Sid Le Sanglé. So he's just rubbed the Canadian flag all over his dick.
Yep.
And Montreal loathes him in this moment.
Oh yeah. It's
He's
great.
doing all
He's
this-
stuffing it up his nose.
It's so good.
I mean, I haven't watched this match in a while, so I'm actually looking forward to seeing it. It's been a bit. The other thing I just want to say is there's so many forgotten like bits and skits with this DX. Like one of my favorite of all time.
Is it fucking the flag? Because that's what he's doing right now.
Nope, that's a good one. When after the Undertaker gets burned at Royal Rumble, and they come out, Triple H has to suck the cook apron, and Shawn, they have the barbecue set, and he's like, "How do you like your Undertaker?" And they're flipping the friggin' burgers. Like that original DX VHS, I wore that out. Like it has all that stuff on it, and it's so good.
Yeah. He's whipping the French announcer in the face with the flag. The joke's on him. The French don't like Canada as a general rule.
Right. Here we go, Bret. Here we go.
We go. One little other thing about Shawn's entrance there that I love is that he's he's walking the back and it's in the dark and we go from pitch black and we hear Sexy Boy hit.
Yeah.
And just the rain of booze in the darkness.
Do you think you should use the DX theme here, or do you think Sexy Boy was the way to go?
Well, I think they debuted it on the pay-per-view like as like
they weren't using it yet? Yeah, I guess you're right.
No, I don't think so. And so I don't think so because I don't think they should have then because it wouldn't have been recognizable for them.
Right.
And they wanted maximum booze. Now, Bret's walking to the ring backstage. Does it make this whole situation sadder that his son is with him and basically kind of embarrassed like in front of his child on top of everything?
Maybe. I don't know. His son's pretty young. Like I think it's too young to maybe realize what's real and what's not. You know what I mean? Like I don't know if he's sitting there thinking like, oh, my dad just got screwed or whatever.
I wonder if Bret held back on shit because his son was there.
It might have been. And his whole family was there. I think everyone was there. It's interesting that Owen's not part of this group coming out. I know he had the match
He just
right
got
before
beat
this,
up, right?
Yeah, with Austin. But
it's such a cool contrast of characters too, seeing Bret come out and is like super disrespectful to Canada and the Canadian flag.
Yeah.
And as much as Bret was anti-US, he would never do anything like that.
Right.
Like he criticized, but yeah. And there's also so many un-PC signs in the crowd on this night. Like
the whole era, really. I mean, this is
Yeah.
what it's known for. It's a bunch of assholes in the crowd.
So as he's coming in the ring, something I've noticed every time I've watched it is Bret is so locked in to Earl Hebner. Like he's gonna pose around a bit here, but then watch him because he's looking at Hebner for like a good like the whole rest of the intro.
So you already think he's doubting it?
I think there's something going on. Like there's definitely something, and maybe it's just him being like, "This is gonna be my last match, no matter what." Like I'm sure there's a lot going on, but I think this early bit of the match where he's staring and talking to Hebner is actually like, if you're gonna go out and say that it's a work, I think that's probably part of it. It's like, oh look, they're planning.
Well, if you remember in Wrestling with Shadows, I can't remember if it's before the match or it's him recollecting on the match where he says like, I trust Earl. Earl wouldn't do that to me.
Yeah.
Like, was that before? I think it's from before. He says it before the match. He's like, because someone said like, watch out for the ref or something. He's like, no, I trust Earl. Earl wouldn't do that or whatever.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why he's kind of looking at him like, yeah, I'm trusting you kind of thing.
Yeah, so he's gone to give the sunglasses to the kid, and you're going to see him go back in now and like really start kind of eyeballing Earl. He's also wearing the belt for a really long time.
Yeah.
Like his behavior's it's all off. His behavior's all strange.
Well, like you said, I mean, it's like he knows this is it. It's his last time wearing that belt. It's meant so much to him for all these years.
Shawn looking so good on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah, like see right now, he's staring at Earl. Michaels is like not part of this at all.
Right, he's just seething on the outside.
But his facials are so good too. He's such a prick. That little smile he just did. Like,
yeah, Bret's like,
look at him. Like,
well, he was probably really emotional. Like, I mean, this company meant so much to him.
Yeah.
For so many years, it's like, I mean, it was his whole livelihood. He's been there, 11 years.
Yeah,
he's poured a ton of effort in, and it's been good to him, but it's meant a lot to him. So, and knowing this is it, like, it's gonna be, and knowing he really did not like Shawn, so like that's part of it. Like he's in here with this guy he hates, and
you can see him being so cautious,
right?
Where Michaels is out there like fucking with the fans and mugging to them, and
Bret
meanwhile is having this little one-act tragedy in the ring,
right? And I think what probably bothers Bret is like he feels Shawn doesn't care about it as much as him, even though Shawn clearly did. He just doesn't act that way, right? So like, I think in Bret's mind, he's sitting there thinking like, I lost to this idiot. I got to leave. He gets to stay. Why is that fair? Kind of thing,
Yeah. Love the way the match starts. See, because like I think this is my favorite of their matches.
Yeah,
and I think it's because it's the only one that's like based on their real life hatred.
Right.
Like all the other ones start kind of feeling out and whatnot. This one is like a fight right from the start.
Right.
I'm also like perturbed as to because they're like Earl Hebner hasn't started the match, but I don't understand why.
Yeah.
Like they started punching in the ring.
I guess it's not. Yeah, it's like he was going to check their boots, and he jumped them beforehand. Yeah, I don't know why they just didn't say it's no. They should. Well, Bret probably didn't want to risk a no holds barred thing, but right, Jim Ross could have said, well, they're being lenient, and just letting them go.
It's funny too that if Bret was suspicious, like he kind of shows the beginning of the match, why on earth would he let him put him in the sharpshooter? I guess he really.
I think at the end of the day, he's just naive. I think he just his heart was like, they wouldn't do this to me. They care too much. Like I'm sure he thought about it, and I think he was warned. I think he said he was warned. I think it's in his book or whatever. Right? He feels like he was.
As Vader warned him.
Yeah, like don't let them get you in a hold or whatever.
Oh, this is such a good sequence because he throws Michaels into the crowd and the crowd starts beating him.
Yeah.
And pounding him and like grabbing him. And the refs have to go in to break it up.
It's like the closest like an ECW moment that you'll get right here.
Yeah.
It's like pure chaos.
And look, Bret is so good at laying
Get him
beating on
Maki.
Shawn.
Yeah.
Maki. He's so good at laying this beating on Shawn, and Shawn is so good at taking it.
Yeah.
Like it's really great, this opening sequence.
Well, I think Shawn had a note too. Like, all right, if I'm gonna throw the scent off, I gotta play full ball throughout the whole match. Like, I gotta sell, I gotta bump, I gotta not no sell and do shit like that. I'm gonna take my beating and play into the match or whatever.
There's so much chaos, the cameraman can't follow them into the crowd.
Well, so Vince being out there too is a flag because first of all, he's not on commentary, which is a big flag, right? It's the first show he hadn't done commentary for in forever, outside of like one-offs here and there. And then all of a sudden he's out there with the officials, like the usual batch of guys, gaggle of morons with Slaughter and all these guys, Goulet and all these guys, and all of a sudden Vince is out there too. Like, that's weird, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And this is like, I think when Michaels takes over here, I think we're going to see like how great his character work is in this. Like with what he starts doing with the fans, the facials, dealing with Vince, like it's really on point.
Right.
And someone threw an American flag in, and now he's going to choke the shit out of Bret with it.
Yep. That's a weird flag. Is that like a shirt or something?
Or bandana, maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
Meanwhile, Jim Ross is saying, like, if Bret loses, it might be his last match.
Yeah, it's cool how they leaned into it too. Like they addressed the internet rumors, right? They're like, oh, there's rumors going around that he's leaving.
Yeah.
There you go. There's a windbreaker couple. Front
I
row.
love them. Yeah.
This has to be one of their earliest appearances, right? Or no, are they around before that?
I'm not sure.
I know they're bigger, like in the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
I feel like they may actually be at like an old show, like something really old. I feel like they showed up. Someone found them.
But are they wearing the windbreakers?
Yeah, I don't know.
I never understand how these people get the front row tickets all the time.
Yeah, I don't know. Contact in the company or something, maybe. Yeah,
Oh,
like Sign Guy and all those other guys.
This is so great. So Bret backdrops Shawn back into the ringside area, but you get a great Vince going, "Look out!" Like he's still on commentary.
Can't shake the habit.
Yeah. Bret just kicked him in the nuts, and Michael's sell is so good.
I feel like having the other agents out there without jackets on is a cool touch too. Like they knew it was going to be like intense, so they threw the jackets down and came out. Like Briscoe and Garea don't have their jackets on. It's like a tail end of a wedding.
Shawn keeps trying to pile drive him on the floor, and Bret keeps backdropping him.
Yeah, I mean it's a great chaotic start for sure. It's
how if the Iron Man had this energy, like it'd be an all-time. It'd be like the greatest match of all time. I feel.
Yeah, they just were still going for the athletic classic at that point.
Yeah.
Oh. And that's why many feel Triple H Rock is like their best Iron Man that they've done because they lean more into this chaos and like a ton of pins and all this craziness.
Yeah.
I mean, you go from no pins at WrestleMania 12 to that match with, what was it, like 11?
11 of them? Yeah.
11 falls. I mean, it's crazy.
That suplex on the floor was pretty sick by Bret to Shawn.
Yeah, I feel like he purposely didn't go down with him.
Well, I mean, it is concrete.
Right. But I think he, maybe in a year before, he would have taken the bump with him. You know what I mean?
Oh, maybe,
instead of just dropped him on his head.
Yeah. Shawn is just eating such a beating here, and it's so great until he throws Tim
White.
Is this indirectly leading to Tim White's suicide?
Well, it might have started as dislocated shoulder issues. That's for sure.
No, when Shawn threw me into Bret.
Yeah, he's still down over there.
And like it's funny because usually in these situations where you brawl and you walk, I feel like it ends up just being a lot of walking.
Yeah, it's like you see it at a ton in ECW. Public Enemy, all those guys are kind of just hugging each other and like walking. Yeah.
But I find this one's not like that. Like Bret is punching him and Shawn is reacting to and that's how they're moving.
Yeah. Could you see where were your seats? Like, could you see any of this outside?
Above the entrance. So like I was high up above where they go about like the next bowl up from where they are.
And you had no hint of any of this. Were you online? Like, did you know that Bret may be leaving?
We knew Bret was leaving. That's what we knew. That's it. Poor Jack Doan.
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty well out there.
Yeah. I always remember this match for this little sequence where they're fighting in the entrance because the entrance makes such great noise when they slam into it.
Right.
Like loud thuds.
Yeah.
Vince. That's early Mr. McMahon right there.
Yeah. It's really the start of it. I mean, because Bret outs him as the owner throughout 97 and they don't really hide from it at all. No. That's really when it starts to leak out. I mean, actually Diesel's the first one to do it in like 95. Says it to him like after Survivor Series, but
after he lost, right?
Yeah, that's where it really is like one of the first times it comes out. Other than is it Euchre or Philbin? One of them says I think it's Euchre, right? Isn't he thank Vince?
No, it's Fowler.
No, before that. I think Euchre says it.
Isn't it Fowler?
I think Euchre says it like
Oh.
WrestleMania 3 or 4. He's like, I want to thank Vince McMahon for bringing me back. I think it's
Oh,
WrestleMania
yeah.
4 he says it.
Okay.
But Fowler says it too. Yeah, thanks to Vince
That's
McMahon.
right.
Idiot.
It's like throwing the headset down.
Ah, the fuck? No one knows.
So it's just so we're clear. What Bret has been thrown is the flag of Quebec.
Correct.
And so people are way happier about this
Yes.
particular beating.
But he's using it as a weapon.
Yeah.
Isn't that
And the match is now started.
disrespectful? Yes.
Yeah.
Look at
I
Shawn
don't-
is dead right there.
It's so good. He's got that flag around his neck.
Yeah, I mean that's a great start. I mean that was what? How many?
Almost 10 minutes.
Yeah, that was a good 10 minutes or so of brawling around.
Yeah.
And it was hot the whole time. It like you said, it never felt like they were just like dying
and
off out there.
When they did different things, they went to different places. Like you add the officials. There's a lot cool stuff going on here.
Yeah. And it's like the perfect spot for it because the crowd is so rabid. I mean, they've been lathering them up for 8 months. Like it all's been building to this, you know.
Yeah. What I notice here is that this is like a great example of how commentators can really help a match. So Shawn was clearly calling a spot there, and Ross kicks in and goes like, I'm sure what he was saying wasn't complimentary.
Right, yeah.
You know,
Just
like
a little thing to cover for it.
Yeah. Oh, the kip up now and the booze. I remember being in this building, and I was actually cheering for Shawn. And I know I was in the vast minority.
Oh, yeah, it's obvious. That's the great non-Shawn move right there. That kick flush to the face.
Like the soccer kick to the face. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not one you really see ever done like that. Like
No.
just straight on, not from the side, just like straight on from the front.
But you know what's funny with that camera angle? That if I was staging that in a play, that is exactly how I would do it.
Right, yeah.
With like the audience here so that everything's masked and it's super safe.
Yeah. Bret's got some blood. Or is that Shawn's blood? Or is it just Bret's hand that's cut?
I think it's
The
Bret's
punches,
hand.
maybe. Yeah.
He punched him for real, for sure. And so now Michaels is starting with the crowd. And this wide shot with the crowd, like
just flipping them off and stuff.
Yeah. And they're so angry. They're livid right at him.
I think it's a forgotten crowd. Like you always think of One Night Stand as like a hostile crowd, and like there's some other ones that always come up, but I think you never hear about this one when you talk about like hostile WWF crowd environments.
Like, look, right there when he's leaning on the ropes, like if that barricade isn't there, some of them might be charging the ring.
Right.
Like,
it's like the right people bought front row tickets. It's like all these like guys that look like they'd jump them in the street too. It's just like these young, fucking fired up, angry dudes, kind of juiced up a little bit. They're probably all hammered. Like it's not like old people sitting in the front and like the rowdy guys are in the back. It's like this perfect mix of. I don't want to keep referencing ECW. It reminds me of it.
Yeah.
Like this perfect mix of just young, charged up guys, like leaning on the railing, just baiting them in the whole time.
I love how Michaels throws him towards the crowd that he was yelling at too, and proceeds to beat the shit out of him and throw like he just got a guy thrown out. He spat at the crowd. Now he's holding Bret so the crowd can see. Like
it's like it just sucks that this was so real. I mean, maybe the heat's not there if it's not as real, and that Bret was leaving because
I know
you look at this and you're like, man, like if they did a rematch in the US in like the right place, like Chicago after WrestleMania 13, do a rematch with the two of them, or even Boston, or wherever it ends up being, like the heat could have been insane if they do another match. They could have gotten so much out of this, especially with Shawn could have feuded with Owen, could have got the rematch of Bulldog. Like they could have really kept this burning, and probably had this level of heat across the board.
Oh yeah, 100%. But then the whole wrestling world is different, right? Like. Like Michaels probably doesn't get hurt against Undertaker. Who knows what happens with Austin? This is without a doubt one of the greatest what if matches of all time.
I mean, I hate to bring it up, but I mean, Owen's not dead. If Bret doesn't leave, because there's no way he's doing Blue Blazer shit coming from the ceiling. It's just not happening.
Yeah. Yeah. Bret's shutting that down.
Or he would at least made sure it was like, if it did go that route, he would have made sure he was safe. Like he wouldn't have let him go up there with the cheap ass fucking hook and all that.
Yeah.
Looking back, it's like, just say no, Owen. Like what are they going to do? Fire you? It's kind of what you wanted.
What do you do? Yeah, you want to go to WCW,
right?
Oh, Shawn. The facials, the timing, it's all so good.
Mhm.
And he's really like, you can tell Michaels is like loving working off the crowd too.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm curious if that's because he knows what's coming. Like, or if he's nervous about what's coming. So it's
I
like
just think he likes being an asshole because he's like that with all the crowds in this time period.
Yeah.
He's trolling every single crowd. I mean, maybe a little bit, he knows, but I don't know. I think he just loved like this dick character.
I think it's actually a testament to both guys that they come out and have. I really like the match as we're going, but like you don't ever get, once they start wrestling, you never get a sense that there's something bigger going on. Like, for instance, that Bret is like, it's his last match, is an emotional, and Shawn knows he's gonna fuck up.
Right.
Like, you never sense anything.
No. No, definitely not.
I'm curious, like, what we'll talk about it as we get to the end, but like what they showed on the pay-per-view versus what is still in existence, like on the network.
Right. Right.
I love. I see.
I mean, I remember being shell shocked. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I love Shawn's urgency on this leg work is so good. Bret hits one of those elbows on the leg, and then he hits a second one, and right away Michaels has to like fight up to grab his face. Like, it's that's exactly the kind of shit that I love in workers, where like something happens and it forces them to change their energy in the match. Like, oh,
Well,
shit,
it's almost too like Shawn is playing like he could get screwed. Like, he doesn't want to get trapped in a leg hold either, because it is foreign countries in Bret's hometown. Earl could be in his pocket. Like,
right.
I mean, we know that's not the case, but like he's presenting that way probably to cover a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I could believe that.
But I remember being shell shocked. I remember I called my buddy Jim because in our backyard federation in 1994, we also ran a screw job 3 years before this. And I remember calling him like, "Oh my God, they just did what we did to Matt." It was like the same thing. Like, I was like floored by the whole thing, but because you just didn't think it would happen. Like, you just never had seen, but it was so obvious. Although, you know what? I lied. It wasn't that night. It was after Wrestling with Shadows. So maybe that night I didn't realize it was like a real screw job. I might have just thought, okay, that's just how they did it to make it look like controversial. But
and that's actually why
Wrestling with Shadows was when I called them, and it was like, holy shit.
Well, that's why I'm curious. It's like what they showed on the pay-per-view, because in the building, it was very clear something had happened.
Right.
It's hard to tell what, because there's no commentary. Everything happens pretty quick as we get to the ending. Here's the great figure 4 on the ring post, by the way, which Shawn sells like death.
We get some staff watching, and Jenny asked, which screw job is more epic, the West Warwick screw job in Montreal? I'd say West Warwick, because it was my cousin, so I really stabbed him in the back, and I ended up taking the passion out of him. It was very similar to Bret, because Bret, you could argue he lost his passion for the business when he went to WCW, and I think I took the passion away back here wrestling from my cousin with that screw job in West Warwick.
Way to go. Did your cousin go to like an East Warwick Eric Bischoff?
No, he stayed in the company for a little bit. She asked if I felt guilty. Nah, it made for great TV. But I wouldn't. I would say the only thing I feel guilty about is, I think, I'm curious if he would have stuck around anyway, or if he would have faded anyway, because he was one of those guys that when he got to high school, he kind of shifted everything and like kind of faded off of it all. I don't know if that jump started it or if it would have headed that way anyway. So it's hard to say.
It's an interesting little tidbit from Ross here. How like Bret's like jumping on Shawn's leg, and Ross is calling it like dirty tricks.
Right.
Which I thought is strange. That's not a dirty trick.
Well, it's almost like, he's trying to hurt him on his way out. You know what I mean? Like, he's trying to purposely break Shawn's leg before he leaves, kind of thing.
But if he look, let's face reality here. If these two fought in real life, Bret would destroy him, right?
I don't know. I mean, Shawn's going to be tough on some level.
I'm not saying Shawn's not tough, but Shawn wasn't stretched by Stu Hart in the dungeon.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Every day for 25 years.
Yeah, Bret probably takes him down and pulls him apart. But long figure 4 here. Shawn's selling is great.
How different is the world if The world is so different if Hebner rings the bell here.
I know, right?
Like, well, ring the bell.
I think Vince would have
Imagine
just overturned it. He would have said, "No, match isn't done," or whatever.
Imagine how screwed Hebner would be.
Right. Yeah.
I
he
want a
wasn't gonna do
camera
that.
right on Vince for his reaction for that.
I think the bigger play by Earl would have been to not call for the bell and make Vince do it.
Yeah.
Which I'm actually surprised they didn't do to protect Earl a little bit. Like, why drag him
why
in? You don't
not?
have to. Just have Earl like not even know, and Vince just rings the bell, and they say, "Oh, they heard him submit or something."
Right.
Is Earl calling for the bell like that needed in that scenario?
Well, I mean, like it did create a lot of confusion.
Right.
I mean, that's a positive of it, right? Because when he calls, I mean, in the building, when he called for the bell, I remember the reaction being like, "What? Like what?"
Right.
Because I was far enough away too that you couldn't really tell.
Right.
And then it was like, "Oh my God, he beat him with his own move." Like there's so much going on, right?
How do you feel? Do you feel that Shawn had to beat Bret for the title in Montreal on this night? Because that's Vince's argument, right? We built to this moment. Before you leave, you have to do this. And Bret's like, "I'll lose to anybody else. I'll lose to Austin. I'll lose to Shamrock. I'll do it on Raw. I'll hand it over. I'll forfeit the belt." Like, so say, like Shamrock beats Bret on Raw, and then Shawn beats Shamrock at DX, and then we get to Shawn Austin anyway.
I love this vertical suplex, by the way. This one Bret jumps on. Look, I think Bret, Shawn, and Vince all handled it wrong.
Right.
Like it never had to be this way. Did he need to beat Shawn? No. Or sorry, did Shawn need to beat him on this night? No. But I mean, to you, like in the great scheme of things, whose side are you on? Pick a side.
I think I'm on Bret's because I just think I think it was a forced decision by Vince when it didn't need to be that. Like, I don't think there's any real significant difference if they have Bret come out and he hands the belt over to Vince on Raw.
Right.
He leaves. Shawn comes out and mocks him. They hand Shawn the belt. You still are like asshole Shawn. You still get the same effect. You do a fuck finish here. DQ like they had planned, a schmaz or whatever. Is this it? This is it.
Yeah, this is the sharpshooter.
Yeah. Poor Bret.
Yeah, and then Hebner runs.
I think Bret should have not cared. I think the mark part of him is like wrong. Like, it's like, I mean, who really cares? Like, you're gonna be like be looked at as empathetic no matter what. You know what I mean? So why not just take the loss and screw it and say you did the right thing?
That's it, because he always presented himself as like, the guy who does the right thing, and then he didn't. Like, just be the bigger person. Like, everyone is clearly being an asshole. Be the bigger. You're making $3 million a year. By the way, Shawn, the way he's leaving here angry, I have always liked.
Right.
Like, I think it's pretty good. It gives him all the deniability, kind of.
Yeah.
Except this little jump at the end.
Well, and he knew. I think Vince then they said like get out of here before I'll take the heat. Just like get out of here.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think
because ultimately, so they just cut out here. Right?
That's it.
Obviously.
Yeah, that's all. You never see it. You don't see when did they show the WCW? Not to Wrestling with Shadows. Do we not see that?
I think so, because what he does, what happens after?
Well, there were pictures online, I think, after.
Yeah, like he's in the ring for a while, kind of just alone, kind of hanging on the ropes, kind of taking it all in. And then I know he middle fingers Vince a bunch. He spits on him. That's earlier. Then all the foundation come out.
Right.
And he starts writing WCW.
And he destroys the monitors and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, he smacked, and then he gets back in the ring and he says goodbye to everybody. They never give him a mic or anything, but
no, definitely not.
No, but like he's in there a while. Like it's probably another 10 minutes.
Right, of him out there. Yeah, I don't know. I think they're both wrong. I think Vince is more wrong. I just don't see the need to have had the match. Like it's not like Bret. I could see a Bret threatened to leave with the belt, and I guess that's Vince's argument, right? Is that we didn't trust him. He could have walked out. Bischoff has done it before. Like, that's his assessment, right? That's his assertion. It was that we didn't trust him to not do the right thing.
But he would.
Whereas to me, you're talking about the biggest mark, and like Bret, he didn't want to leave. Of course he's not going to probably do that. And if he did, you make it an angle. I just don't know the obsession that Shawn had to beat Bret. Like we literally had multiple title changes that year where Shawn like handed it over. It's like, I mean, it's like do we really? Is this title this valuable now? The one that Shawn cried and handed over to Vince 8 months earlier? Like, who gives a shit?
I think there's a few things at play. I think one of them that we always have to remember is Vince is a psychopath, right?
Yeah.
So like why is that important? It's important because like he cannot handle losing.
Right.
He just cannot handle it. And until this point, he's been getting his ass kicked. I don't think he knew how to process it, how to deal with it. I think he and so when he says if you know Shawn needed to beat Bret, I think he probably believes it. Like I do think you're right that it's nonsense. But to play the flip side, as someone who like directs theater and plays and runs companies and stuff like that, like it's like if you have an actor in the show and suddenly like you need them to do a certain thing for the show to make the show better,
right?
You know, like and they're suddenly
but if that was their final show and they were leaving,
but it doesn't matter. Like you have, I'm not trying to be the corporate stoolie here, right? But like, it's like in the end, it's a prop belt.
I know.
Like
I just think it was such a unique situation. And I think to Bret's point was, I'll lose. I don't care. Like he's not saying he wouldn't lose. It's just that this had gotten so personal, and it's almost like kind of embarrassing to lose in his home country to this guy.
It's not real. Like
I know, but it's just like the imagery of like this is the end. I think he would have laid down. I don't think he's afraid not to do the right thing. Like if they changed Shawn to Austin on the show, I think he would have just done it, or Shamrock, or whoever the hell.
Someone he respected. I think it's like you hear these stories about like things getting written into The Rock's movie contracts where he can't lose a fight to Vin Diesel or whatever, and it just feels so stupid and petty and like lame. Like and so. I think in the end, Vince is in the wrong for lying to his employee, for screwing him over. I think Shawn is in the wrong for saying that I would never put you over. Yeah. Well, that's more iffy for me, but at the very least saying like, I wouldn't put you over when Bret said the same thing to him. Cause that's Bret's contention, right? Is that Bret went to him and said, no matter what, I'll put you over. And then Shawn was like, no, I'm not going to do the same. But in the end, like all in all, I just wish Bret was the bigger person, which is how he always presented himself and said, you know what?
Right.
I'm about to make $3 million a year. It's a fake belt. I'm going to the company.
And it'll make me a legend to do the right thing. I'll win a lot of credit with the boys, whatever. Like, I agree he probably should have done it, but I also think Vince overthought it. Like, it was just a perfect storm of two guys that hated each other and a desperate guy who was in charge. And it was like, I think part of it too is Vince just being a masochist, like just wanting the drama. Like you always heard about how he'd pick guys against Hogan and Hogan against Bret. Like I think at the end of the day, he liked the drama of those guys fighting backstage, and it was real. And I mean, it's a big driver to the overhaul of the company in '97. Like it's that the two of them in Austin are so real and visceral that it changed the direction of the company.
Right.
It was just the perfect storm. I mean, if that happens a month off that timeline, it probably goes 100% different. If that show isn't in Montreal, if that show's not scheduled for Montreal, it goes different. If that show is in Phoenix or wherever the hell, you know what I mean? Like whatever, none of that happens. It's just because they booked that a year out or whenever it was. It's not like they booked it a month out before they knew they wanted that match there. So like if that show is not there, if Shawn hadn't come back and turned heel, like it's just everything built and built and built. Shawn signs that big money deal after the fight because Vince could have thrown him out after the fight in Hartford. He could have said, "Fuck it, like I'm done with you." But he saw more future and money in Shawn than Bret.
And ultimately, like at the time, that's probably the right call. Like, just,
I would agree because you could argue
based
Shawn,
on age,
and you could argue Shawn was kind of well rested because he hadn't really worked a lot in since late '96. I mean, he had probably a dozen matches between, if that, like between Survivor Series '96 and this point. Like it can't be more than that. I mean, it's not a lot. So, I mean, he was a lot fresher. Bret was 37 or whatever, 38. He had been going nonstop. But Shawn gets hurt. He loses both of them. So.
Yeah. Like Shawn is what, 9 years? No, he's 6 years.
Right. He was probably early 30s at this point. 'Cause Bret, I know Bret was 37 because he says that in Wrestling with Shadows.
He's 8 years. He's 8 years older than him.
Yeah.
Like so, and I mean, like if you're making the choice between the two who are similar,
Right.
you go with the younger one, right? Especially like at this point too, DX is the hotter hand.
But he didn't have to get rid of one. That's the thing.
I know.
Like he felt like he had to get rid of Bret so they could turn the company in a different direction. But I don't know. Like make Bret be the one that walks. Like don't, he kind of pushes him out the door. I don't think he had to do that either.
Maybe
because you could have turned him face. You could have just made him face in '98 again. Like he had his year heel run, turn him back, keep DX.
I wonder if Vince was just tired of having constant conversations with Bret.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been. It could have been Shawn pulling power. Like, look, I'm done with this freaking guy. Like, he's in the way. We want to take that in a new direction. He's stodgy. He's not going to want to do it. But I think a world where like they keep Bret, he puts over Austin at WrestleMania, and then they have a loose alliance to take out DX. Like, could have been cool. Where they have to like coexist on the same side to eliminate the threat that is DX. Like, I think that could have been pretty neat.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I
all
agree.
Right, let's get to our grades.
Well,
this is our new top dog.
Yeah, so we didn't talk about our categories, but we'll do it. We got 5 categories. We both rank in 10s out of 10. That gives us a nice clean message out of a number out of 100.
Yes.
So the first category is match quality.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you at, my friend?
I went 7 out of 10. That's like a 3.5-ish grade, which, we said it was. You said it was their best match ever. I don't remember what I ended up going for WrestleMania 12 on Warzone, but I think I might have had it at like a 4. So to me, and I think I had their other one at 3.75. So pure number grade, it may be the lowest graded for me, but I think it's probably the most fun to watch, I guess, of the 3. I enjoyed it. There's so much going on, but
yeah, I said it was my favorite. Like,
not the best.
I think the first one might be the best for me, which is strange because it might be the one I like I like the Iron Man the least, I think.
Yeah, I have the Iron Man slight ahead of that slight ahead of this.
Oh, there you go. So that's 7 from each. Next is significance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably going to be pretty high.
Yeah, I think this is a double 10 for sure, if there ever was one. I mean, there's no more important title change, probably outside of like Hogan and Sheik. That you could think of. I mean, this is like the most significant title change match. It completely altered lives, careers, businesses. Like, I mean,
people died as a result.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and like, I mean, is it the most famous match in company history?
Hogan Andre probably, but it's probably top 3.
Yeah. Crazy stuff. All right, so we're double 10s. As for the moment, look, as a moment, I'm a 10 also. Like it's one of the craziest moments in the history of wrestling.
Yeah, it's a 10. So, I mean, the spitting on Vince, the WCW, throwing the cameras around, the Earl calling for the bell, the sharpshooter, like it's an iconic wrestling moment in history. Everyone has seen it. Everyone knows about it. Shawn falling back on the sharpshooter. As Bret, as he's realizing Earl's calling for the bell, tries to break the hold at the last, like too little, too late. Like all of that just plays into Shawn angrily stomping to the back, and then he holds it up at the end. Yeah, I mean, if that's not a 10, I don't know what would be.
And just let me add too, in the building that night, like when it happened, I've never experienced anything like it. It was like what? Like yeah. I would probably liken it to when the Undertaker, the streak got broken.
Right.
Like just that kind of shocked reaction, and then the whole rest of the night was just trying to figure out what we had just seen.
Right.
So build this is 18 months of just them yakking and jawing and so much good stuff, and the ref stuff at SummerSlam, and them just crisscrossing and going back and forth, backstage brawl. I'm at a 10 also for build.
Yeah, if it's not a 10, again, I don't know what would be. When it's real life, it's on screen. It goes beyond 18 months too, because we saw Series 92, Heart Foundation versus Rockers. Like those are two guys that came up together. They were always presented against each other. The new generation drivers, Bret and Shawn, or like that. Even like Chad and I are on Wrestling Warzone, which is every other Monday. Here we're in late '96. And like they're already building Bret Shawn again. Like they're constantly talking about each other. even as faces, like Shawn's like, yeah, enough with Bret, and like you could tell Bret's gunning for him, and we're not even near early '97 yet. It's like early December,
Yeah.
So it's crazy. Like they're already planning. You could tell they're planning that match at that point. It's obvious that that's where they're headed.
And
Even though it doesn't get there.
we talked about it too when we talked about Sid Undertaker.
Mhm.
Like there's a whole subplot of Bret and Shawn in there.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
Jesus Christ.
Right. And then even the Sunny stuff, I mean, that plays into it, right? The comments about Sunny and all that. So, yeah.
And Aftermath. And I mean,
It's a 10.
like it's like when you think of like the company completely changed. Number
Yep.
one, Bret's gone, DX is on top,
Mhm.
but it births Mr. McMahon.
Yep.
It like, and the change towards attitude is what ultimately defeats WCW.
Right.
And I don't know if that happens as fast if Bret is still there.
Oh, and it completely changes Bret's trajectory. Like if he stays around, does he retire gracefully? Does he not get kicked in the head? Does he have decades of comeback runs with all these other legends that have gotten back in the ring years and years later? Like, I mean,
To make millions in Saudi Arabia.
but he was robbed of all that stuff, like all those little runs here and there, like all these got Foley, these guys have done over the years. Like he got robbed of that.
Well, hold on. He's the one who went out and had himself a stroke.
He gets robbed of that. That probably doesn't happen. We talked about Owen. Like I don't want to keep going there, but like there's so much that happens because of it. WCW, his run sucks. Like I mean, he's got some highlights, but it sucks. Like it's, his heart's clearly not in it. He doesn't feel the same. It feels weird. They don't know what to do with him. He's face, he's heel. He's face, he's heel. It's all over the place.
Yeah, he's not the same Bret. It's not the same character. It's not the same passion. And the prophetic words of Vince McMahon of saying like WCW will never know how to use him ends up being 100% correct.
And if Owen doesn't pass away, but I think Bret comes back. I think Montreal was fixable. I think that's what broke it. So I think if in a world where that doesn't happen, I think by like 2000 he's back. Like I think it's a couple year jaunt, and he shows back up for like the invasion or whatever. And
he's fighting Kurt Angle.
Yes,
yeah.
I think they mend fences. I think it's the bad blood that comes out of the Owen and the lawsuit and the Martha stuff and all that.
Yeah, I would,
and rightfully so. I'm not saying it shouldn't have gone that way, but
some people would say that. Some people would definitely say that. I would also just say that's like as an addendum to our scores. When I'm giving a 10 for Aftermath, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything that came after it is necessarily a good thing.
No, it's just
important.
Historically important. Yeah.
Yeah. Now a lot of it was good, but obviously the deaths were not. Like I mean, even something as stupid as Bulldog not getting hurt in WCW.
Right.
Like that's
he probably doesn't leave either. Yeah.
That's it. And that's a guy who's been with the company. I mean, he left in '90s for a little bit, but like he's a guy who got there in 1985, right? So like,
he probably doesn't get addicted to the painkillers, and he probably doesn't.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's a heart attack from the steroids, but the painkillers are really what drove him to a quicker grave. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of shit in the wake of this decision that could have been completely different by just Vince saying, "Yeah, all right, have a DQ," and then the next night on Raw, Bret hands the belt over. We have a tournament. Like whatever, like everything would have been completely different, probably.
Right. All right. So look, that's going to give it a monster score. What do you say before we reveal that score? Why don't we read off our top 10 and see where it lands? Because now, as of this recording, this is our 36th match we've talked about. Yep. So let's start at number 10, see where it ends up. So number 10, as it stands right now, with 63 points, is Bret Hart versus Yokozuna from WrestleMania 10.
All right. At 9th is Hulk Hogan versus The Ultimate Warrior from WrestleMania 6 with 67 points.
8 is Randy Savage versus Ted DiBiase from WrestleMania 4 with 67 points also. Tie break was importance.
Right. Our 7th match is Hulk Hogan versus Randy Savage from WrestleMania 5 with 69.
And that is one of the other two match. There's only 2 matches that both of us gave. Now there's 3 with this one, but there was 2 matches before that both of us gave 10 for build. Do you remember what the other one was without looking?
I have a feeling, but
number 6, Randy Savage versus Ric Flair, WrestleMania 8. Oh, excuse me, I'm at number 7.
No, we did number 7. That was WrestleMania
6,
5.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay, number 6, WrestleMania 8, Randy Savage, Ric Flair, 72 points.
All right, above that is Hulk Hogan versus Andre the Giant from the main event with 75 points.
And that's the one.
Yes.
Number 4, Hulk Hogan versus Iron Sheik, Madison Square Garden, January 84, 76 points.
Number 3, the Royal Rumble match from 1992 where Ric Flair won. That's 78 points.
Number 2, what we talked about last time, Bret Hart versus The Undertaker, SummerSlam 1997 with 90 points.
And that also had 10s for build, right? That's the other one.
Not for build.
Oh, no. Never mind. I'm looking at the wrong thing. Yeah, okay.
Or maybe,
all right.
maybe
And our new
Yeah.
number 1, as you can see on the screen if you're watching with us on video, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart.
Yeah.
Survivor Series 1997 with 94 points. So it edges out SummerSlam by 4. And there's 6 points from a perfect
Almost
score.
maxes out.
Yeah. If the match was a little bit better.
And I could see an argument where someone could come around and say, well, the match is so significant that it's a 5-star match. I buy it.
It's interesting. I don't, not to poo-poo the rest of this project, but I don't see what, I don't see any that potentially could top this. Like, I could have seen the Rumble get knocked off by a couple, and I think that'll slide. I think we'll have some that fill that gap maybe between 2 and 3, but those scores for those top 2 are
they're so far
high.
ahead. Like, it's like it goes from 78 to 90.
Yeah.
And I mean, everything else up to that point, I mean, look, like everything else is like, if you go up from number 3 to number 2 is 12, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you go down 12 from number 2, I mean, you're just
9.
outside the top 10, like it's a big gap. And I think, and I thought about it. I'm like, did we overrate? Did we do this? Did we do that?
No, I don't think so.
But I think it goes to show how absolutely important that July 97 until maybe this moment was.
Right.
Because, like, I mean, I bring it back to July because we talked a lot about the build for Bret Taker, right?
Yeah.
But, like, there's just something special going on in the company at that time. And
it's unique. It's like nothing else.
Well, and the decisions they made during that period influenced the company to this day.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that, like, maybe you could probably say the same thing about Hogan and Sheik, maybe a couple of those little ones like that. But even then, it doesn't, the world doesn't change the way these matches change the world.
And I think that's why I think it's not going to get knocked off, because I don't think anything after this is as important or historically significant. Because the company isn't as historically significant as we go forward. This is important ones. Like, we may have 8s, we may have maybe in a 9, but like to get a 10 in significance, a 10 in the moment, a 10 in the build, a 10 in the aftermath. Like, it's just, there's nothing that, to me, no matter how great a match may be, we're gonna have 5-star matches coming up.
Yeah,
but are they gonna have all that other stuff? There's maybe 1 or 2 that you could say, but it's going to be a minute before we get there. So it'll be fun, though, because we'll see if any else crack the top 10. I mean, there's a lot to get into. But these top 2, I think, are going to be tough.
They're safe for a while, at least. Like, I'm trying to think of something, something like Brock Rock that kind of changes the face, but there's still something missing from it.
All right, that might have a high score for build, but like the aftermath is kind of weak.
But it's important. We just talked about how,
like,
because they split the titles, Raw goes in the tank. There's a lot at play there that, like, you can kind of almost put to Brock.
I think that might have a shot. And I mean, years down the line, right? Like a Punk Cena, I think it could be in the mix as well. We'll see.
That one's so hard because he loses the belt almost immediately.
Right, but it does. I think it's similar to what you just said, though. It almost ushers in a whole new era. Of the indie guy, of putting the faith in that, and you get the pipe bomb. The build is weak until that week before, but that's like an all-time moment. So, like, how much does that weigh in?
But that's not the week before. There's actually a couple weeks in there.
2 weeks, whatever it is. But
there's one the next week that everybody forgets. There's like a live contract signing, and that's also incredible.
Right. So, so it'll be interesting. But sure to check out everything we have. Subscribe to this here YouTube channel if you're watching on video. We're all over social media. We're on TikTok. We're putting stuff out there. We're on we have YouTube short stuff going out. We're on Instagram, Twitter as well. And of course, this northsouthconnection.com will give you all the content we have, video and audio. So be sure to check everything out. The Dookie's been dropped. We'll talk to you next Saturday. We got draft day next Saturday. So look forward to
Yeah.
that, of course. Till then, later.
Oh, see ya, jackass.